Hello and welcome to the 2023 Vic Open coverage, coming to you from Ballarat.
Sunny Ballarat for once.
Very odd. Vic Park is lit up beautifully, and we're here for the first round of MA1.
I am your announcer, Phil Morgan, and this is Kyle Herbert.
And we're super excited to be bringing you this one as our first journey into producing coverage.
It was a cracker to film, and I hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. On our card today, we've got Allen Brunsting, Mikey Hare, Michael Gliese, and Sam Cohen. Allen, mainly throwing FDs and buzzers, putting with wizards. Michael Gliese, he's going to be throwing quite a mixed bag today, putting with those judges.
Sam will be throwing almost entirely graces off the tee and putting with lunas. Mikey will be throwing almost strictly a lot of Innova, a lot of destroyers, and putting with those KC AVRs. Hole 1 is a 208 metre par 4. You go straight up this tunnel, pretty low ceiling, particularly right off the tee. There's a low hanging branch coming down on the right. You want to throw a straight backhand or forehand as far up the tunnel as you can. Then there is a mander on the left before you dogleg out to the left through a second tunnel, and the basket is off there on the right. Your ideal play, as we said, is straight shot and then get around the corner, give yourself some kind of look.
Quite a testing first hole here for this card, and we're going to see how they navigate it.
First up, we have Allen from Melbourne. He'll be throwing an FD, that kind of straight shot up the gap, as you can see. Ceiling probably messed with him a little bit.
Mikey, just looking to advance up this tunnel.
I think that's actually his TL. Star TL.
That is his star.
But again, that ceiling really getting in the players' heads. Sam from Adelaide, throwing a grace, I believe. Again, just that big straight shot. Probably leaked a little bit left, making that last shot a bit tough.
Gliese here throwing a claymore, opting for a slower speed disc just to try and place it.
Get out of it.
And
Unfortunately, when you throw that slow speed disc with the ceiling, you need to give a lot of height for those slow discs, and he probably just pulled it a little hard.
trying to just scramble here, advances one up the fairway quite nicely.
But he might be a little bit pinched off on the left. Here's Mikey. Probably just gave that Mando a little bit too much respect. A little bit out on the right, but that's fine.
Allen throwing his Metal Flake FD here. And that's pretty much what you want to do for a second shot there. Just clipping a little bit of foliage. And he sits just in front of that Mando.
Yeah. Sam, like we said, a little bit pinched. It makes that getting far enough left on your second shot pretty tough, but you can get some pretty big skips on some of this hard pan stuff.
Mikey with a nice shot with his, I believe, AVR X3.
Yeah, I think that's his DX AVR X3. Nice little shot. Gliese, like we said, pretty pinched with that Mando, and that's a very good effort to get around and get a little bit of distance towards the basket.
Allen with a buzz, a fairly straightforward approach. Should have a look there from about 7 or 8.
Here's this secondary tunnel. You can see the ceiling's a little higher, and that's a good upshot from Gliese.
Sam and his zone. Again, fairly straightforward. Highs are upshot there.
Yeah.
Not too much trouble.
Mikey's left himself with a good sort of edge of C2 putt, but just came up a little bit short. Good bit though.
Allen for his par here. Again, just transitioned over to putting with those wizards, so we'll see how well he's adapted.
And that's a very good putt. That's as good as you can
Great
get
putt,
from that kind of spot.
That's
a good par.
That's a really good start to the round. Great momentum. Yeah.
Yeah. a good putt from Michael. Not the easiest start to the round, but
Yeah, this first hole playing pretty hard. I think it was the hardest hole on day one.
yeah.
And by a comfortable margin.
All right, hole 2, 100 meters, par 3. You've got a pretty, it's almost a generous opening gap, but with some ceiling issues. Pushing straight up the fairway to a different basket location from the main course, and the basket's kind of tucked off here to the right.
You can either go the righty massive hyzer, pushing that right hand side, or you can opt for the right hand flex forehand, similar to that line that Allen played.
That's
just
it. That
leaking
is,
a bit left.
yeah, that is a very good shot from Allen though. If you can kind of get yourself to a place where you can have a jump putt, that's really nice. That's a similarly kind of decent shot from Sam, but it's basically a par hole for a lot of people.
Mikey opting for that flex forehand and just pushing it a bit too low. He should have a fairly routine up and down from there.
It's hard to see on camera, but this hole does play a decent amount uphill with that low ceiling. It makes that ground come into play.
Gliese was stuck up in the tree there, so just throwing his upshot, coming up a bit short.
Yeah, there is definitely a late gap that you have to hit for that forehand upshot. And Sam in kind of the same spot. Mikey a little more pinched, but
again, should just be able to scuttle something through on those pine needles.
there's a lot of small gaps, and this is what we were saying with Allen's shot. You just give yourself that jump putt up, or in this case, a nice, simple, easy little layup. Par is fine on this hole, as with the last one. And that was a good bid from Gliese from a tough spot.
Mikey here again with a bit of a longer putt. Just not quite getting that drop.
Pulled it a little bit right, but that's alright. Not the easiest hole on this course. Oh, and that's a rough one for Sam.
Mikey with a bit of a comebacker here.
But yeah,
Very solid. Once his putting's on, it's on. We'll see if he can get some momentum.
yeah, a bit of a tough start from the card on a couple of somewhat tough holes. Hole 3 now, par 3, 82 metres. Bit of a funky tee pad position on this one. You've got a gap that's a little off from the line that the tee pad is. You want to throw kind of a straight mid or a little bit of a flex, or there is a right hand hyzer out to the right.
Allen trying to just hit that straight gap and just leaving it a little left.
Yeah. Sam just trying to force something over a little bit, but just pulled it over. That gap, that secondary gap a bit up the fairway, is kind of tight, and you do have some ceiling issues about 2/3 of the way down the fairway as well, with that big branch coming out. So it's very hard to hit the perfect line on this hole.
Mikey there making a similar mistake to Allen, but again should have a straight look to the basket for his second.
And this hole does play a little downhill as well. Gliese with a fairly stable mid-range, getting that little flex, just pushing to the edge of the circle there, which is that's a great shot. This isn't an easy hole, is it?
No. Mikey here, just not quite finding those initial releases easy. Bit left off the first, bit right off the second.
Here's Sam just on the edge of the circle of the previous hole. This hole does come back down the hill parallel to the previous hole. So that little kick left put him over by the other basket. And that's a very nice little upshot there from Allen. A little putter standstill, kind of a bit of an ultimate style flick.
Ooh, that was a really good bid from Mikey there to save par. Again with this long comebacker. We'll see what he can manage.
And that is a very, very nice comeback from nearly the edge of the circle over there, I believe.
Yeah. Not making life easy for himself these first few holes, but the putting is going well.
Yeah. And today on the first day, there was little to no wind.
Oh, Gliese.
Big putt from from Michael. Sorry.
Very nice. Bit high, but you're not going to say no to a birdie on this hole.
No, this opening stretch was very important for a lot of players. If you could kind of hold it together, and a similar miss for Sam from the previous hole, that's a little bit rough. But if you could stay pretty like under control for these first sort of 4 or 5 holes, you definitely left yourself a lot of room for some very scoreable holes on the back 9.
Hole 4 here, we're looking at a left to right shaping hole with a hyzer forehand or a left-hand hyzer backhand. Pretty long hole here, quite skippy. Or you can see this gap that Michael is lining up down that right-hand side, throwing the right-hand backhand. Very tight initial gap, but clears out there if you can hit it. And he makes it through that initial gap, but collects a tree halfway down the fairway. So
with that backhand route, you are kind of playing a little bit of plinko, and this is the line that we didn't talk about, but it's definitely there. A long kind of backhand turnover with a fairway driver or a distance driver. And that's a very good shot from Sam. Pushed up into the circle there, I believe. And here's Mikey showing us that forehand route. Throwing a nuke.
Looks like a pretty good line. Just got to beat that last tree and finds it.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to push that if you push that outside route. There's a lot of potential tree troubles. It's a good jump putt up shot from Michael.
And a layup there from Mikey, not looking to leave himself another circle edge comebacker.
And another really, really good, safe, easy putt up shot from Allen. And here's Sam's birdie bid.
Bit of an overcorrection there from those last couple of holes, I think, but
a couple of just top of the cage hits, and then pushes a slightly longer putt a bit high. As does Michael, and that's not ideal.
Mikey taps in for his par.
And we'll see the rest tap in as well.
Really, these first 4 holes were quite a gauntlet, honestly. I think that most players are looking through these 4 holes trying to walk out with like even par, 1 over, and hole 5 is no exception. 206 metre par 4. You're looking to somehow navigate left, right or through those initial poplars, and then depending on which line you take, you should have some sort of line to this blue basket.
Yeah, and this one plays quite downhill off the tee. Some people are playing for this push out to the right like Allen's going for, but the gap's quite tough initially. And Sam playing for that as well and gets it away very well.
Makes that correction and ends up in that centre cut.
A lot more players are throwing this route out to the left that Mikey, I think, was going for but didn't quite connect with, where you're throwing a big high turnover or a forehand or a big lefty backhand if you're a lefty.
I wouldn't know any of those, would I, Phil?
No. Here's Michael throwing that big high turnover.
And I think that's just going to end up stabling out, and he'll have a pretty straight look at the basket from there. That
is great distance, and it almost puts you in a worse spot because you don't have that big hyzer where those trees are. Allen's just going for distance here. I think maybe a slightly more position play.
And that's pretty good. He'll have a look from there.
Yeah. And Mikey's quite a way back. It's almost, the basket's almost out of play from this far back.
Baby. Push.
Though he has gone for it.
He's connected on that really well, and I think that'll come up about 25 short.
there's not really a ton of danger going for it from this far back, unless you really rip one over to the road, OB on the right. And that's a good shot from Sam. Puts him to probably 19 or so, 18. Allen with that hyzer I talked about before, but just brings those trees a little too much into play.
This is what Michael's left with, and this is what we're talking about, this nice straight look at the basket. Just doesn't quite get over on that flex forehand. It leaks out a bit, but...
It's tough throwing the forehand there because the edge of circle is in that tree line over there. So you can't really push your forehand as far left as you want. Here's Sam's bid from quite a way out, but it's parked, it's fine.
Mikey, a bit better than I initially thought here. Another mid C2 look.
He's given it a good bid, hit the flag, but it's kind of pushed deep, which has been kind of the story of the round for him today.
Ooh, very close to a good birdie there.
And Mikey continuing that trail of making his comeback. And then we have tap-ins for Sam, Allen and Michael to finish out the hole, which is... It's not an easy hole, but it's definitely one that you probably want to get. Hole 6. This is quite a tough par 4, 192 metres. A little downhill, but then you go into this, you shoot into this tunnel. Very low ceilings, downhill as well, making it even tougher. And then it flattens out. And then the basket is in the tree line on the left. So a lot of players will be playing out to the left of the whole tunnel off the tee if they can, but a lot playing up the guts or out to the right as well.
Sam throwing his grace, just trying to push that tree line and get a skip through. Just catches some late trees, but again, in that main channel, so he'll have a nice straight look down. Michael going massive. Turnover. I think this is going to turn into a roller.
I think it's a deliberate roller. A lot of people are throwing the roller to try and get as far left as they can, but also just take that low-hanging tree line completely out of play.
Yeah.
Because it's quite grabby on that left, that right-hand side of the tunnel.
Mikey with his champion destroyer just turned it over a bit too much in catching that early tree.
Maybe didn't quite have the height he was going for to get into the tunnel and hold the turn. Allen Brunsting with his patented thumber. Not a play you'll see very often on a 192 metre par 4 off the tee, but there you go. Yes. I think that's put him into the tunnel.
It's just put him in that left-hand tree line, but he'll have a shot.
Yeah, that's a good standstill forehand from Mikey. That's a step out to the left is a tough forehand stance.
Allen with his self-proclaimed best shot of the tournament with a shrike here.
Fantastic turnover.
Has just put himself with pretty much a straight look to the basket. I think that's close to pin high.
That is a really good shot from a very tough spot to be. That is a very nice shot from Sam, pushing down that fairway. No worries with the ceiling. Beautiful slide up on the leaves. That's a really good shot. Now, last year, this ditch that Michael was in was OB, but it was not this year, so he's given himself a really nice shot.
Mikey again, leaving himself circle's edge with that up. Allen here with his polecat approach, looking to just scuttle something up there and does quite a nice job of it.
Self-proclaimed one of the best polecat throwers in Australia.
Still waiting on his debut at Poker Woker. Mikey,
yeah, good putt there from Mikey. He's been on top of those comeback putts.
That's 4 now in these first 6 holes.
And a good putt there from Michael as well. And nice little tidy up from Sam. Was that for birdie?
I think it was, yeah.
It's a very good birdie to get. That's a tough hole.
Speaking of tough holes, hole 7 here, 188 metres with an initial tunnel to navigate. For the right-handers, pretty easy gap to hit. Just want to push a hyzer straight through, skip around to near that pine tree, and then another big hyzer over the top into this sloped and exposed green.
Often when it's windy, that green is very tough, but the sealing out of this gap is a real problem.
Sam navigating that ceiling quite well, but just skipping over left behind that last pine tree.
Here's Gliese throwing, I believe, his boss. Just trying to get out that gap again and just get as far left, but just pulled it right, and that's pretty much the worst spot you can be on this hole.
Yeah, it's not great. It really takes any birdie look out of the question, and yeah, you're just scrambling from par for there. Mikey
doing the same thing. It tried to hyzer out, but I think the fact that it was chopped down a little bit there was a good thing. He'll have a little more open look.
Allen also just getting over on that FD and not having the stability to fight out quite as hard. Find himself in a similar spot.
Like I said, Mikey, being that little bit shorter of that tree than either Michael or Allen, he'll have this pretty aggressive high turnover, I think.
He's given it the height, just see whether it flexes out. I think it does, and it ends up in an alright spot there.
Yeah. And as you can see, in this one couple of trees, this little patch, you got almost nothing, and that's a very good shot there from Allen to get out. Getting out is basically all you're able to do from there. I think Michael was going for a roller there.
Sam with a tough kneeling forehand, and he's given himself a bit of space out to the right side there.
It's just a little chip hyzer backhand into the green. Mikey with a nice little shot in there.
Allen here after his chip out. He should have a fairly straight look at the basket, just going with his buzz.
Yeah, once you get out of those early holes, there's a lot of open space through this middle section of the course. And that's a really good upshot from Allen, putting it pretty much parked.
Yeah, he'll take another nice par there.
Michael, similar kind of look, but he's just sorted off a little bit, I think. Pulls up a little short.
Alright, Sam here with his hyzer up shot.
He's also kind of sorted off a little bit, but just right to the edge of the circle there. Similar to Gliese. It's a good bid from Michael, but not quite it.
Sam here.
From just inside, just not quite getting it there. Here's Mikey. It's been a tale of all of these like mid to long distance putts this round, hasn't it?
Yeah,
and he just continues.
Makes another good one there. Allen tapping in for what is a very good par after his drive. Pretty much just took his get out of jail free card and slammed it on this hole.
It's been very clean throwing from Allen today.
Yeah,
nothing fancy, but clean. Hole 8. It's a par 4, 175. An initial kind of gap to hit. You can do a few things, but it's pretty much just throw it as far as you can up this fairway and give yourself a big backhand hyzer into this green tucked behind these big trees. So for a lot of people, it'll be throw your straightest or furthest flying disc between the pine tree and the early low tree on the left, but some people will opt for a high turnover.
Mikey just yanking that one over a bit and catching that tree. Probably a good result there, not pushing into those trees on the right hand side.
And Allen just same old, punching that FD straight down the fairway.
Sam also dragging it down a bit to the right, but just stables out in front of that tree. That's a great look.
That's pretty much prime position right there. Here's Michael. And he's just pulled it a little high. And that pine tree does overhang the fairway.
Mikey lining up a big destroyer turnover here. Bit of a flex shot, sorry. See what he can manage. Just grounds it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a slippery footing through there, so I wonder if that affected him a bit. Michael going very aggressive, high flex to get around those trees on the left. And it's worked out very well.
He's about 15 long there, just got a bit too much onto it, but he'll have a putt.
Allen lining up the same disc that he threw off the tee. And he's just flipped it a little bit. But he's kicked out to the good side of the tree and he'll have a nice upshot.
Sam here punching it low and straight and should... Oh, just clips that last branch.
Just faded a couple of feet early, I think. And here's Allen with that nice
Spinny
kind of
putter
slingy,
approach.
slingy, spinny putter upshot.
Yeah, pretty good shot there. Mikey just hyzering that zone around there, and yeah, that is a drop in. No more long putts for him.
Great little jump putt bid there from Sam, but it's just unfortunately splashed out that lower left side. I wonder whether the back of the putter just caught a little bit on the nubs and popped it up. Great bid, and it's a par nonetheless. Nice little, just sort of mid C2 look for Gliese here. Good jump putt, but just a tiny bit low. And you can see from the flag the wind is sort of picking up a little bit in this open area.
Rest of the card escaping this hole.
Nice little tap outs.
Yeah.
Some pizzazz there from Michael. Like to see some pizzazz on tap ins. It's always good to see.
Now this next hole here to round out the front nine is a pretty challenging par 3, measuring in at 122 metres. It's a fairly tight line to hit. For the right-hander, you want to go for a flex backhand or a flip up and turn with a bit of fade at the end, or you can go this forehand route that Mikey's taking.
But it's a big hole for a forehand, and this early tree on the left is what makes the backhand so tough. You can't really push it out into space as much as you'd like, and as we saw Mikey come up a bit short, it's not a short hole in the least. It's not a difficult hole, but it's a difficult hole to birdie.
Yeah, a lot of the field taking par on this one, not a lot of variation there. Fairly centre of the road scoring distribution.
That shot there from Sam is very nearly the one mistake you don't want to make, which is be in that tree on the right, because it can be very hard to get out and up and down from there. But he pushed through. Here's Michael, and that's just throwing it high. It's a very tough tee shot if you're trying to get aggressive.
Allen here just looking for a fairly routine upshot, going over the far side of those 5 trees, and he'll have an absolute tap in there.
Nice shot.
Exactly what we were talking about before, of like, it's not a hard hole to par, but it's a very difficult hole to get your birdie. Sam with another pretty similar upshot there. Again, all of these guys just with enough touch that are really not leaving themselves much.
Those 5 guardian trees are the one thing you kind of want to miss, but as you can see with Mikey's shot, even if you hit them, if you stay close, you give yourself a very makeable putt, and that is a good putt from Mikey, continuing that trend of hitting those longer putts in the circle. That's a nice little set of tap-ins from the rest of the guys for a nice little par frame to kind of explain what we said before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll do it for the front 9 out here. The card kind of had a bit of a struggle through that tough early section. We ended up with Allen at +1 leading the card, followed closely by Sam and Michael at +2, and Mikey rounding out the card with a +3.
Now, after 9 holes, the field, Tim Davis out to an early lead with a 3 down through this pretty tough stretch. 2 shots clear of Gareth Morgan and Tom Lee. Yeah, a lot of scoring separation, and we'll see how things shape up in the back 9. What are we looking for in that back 9, Phil?
Yeah, on the back 9 you'll see a lot more scoring, hopefully, from this card. It's a much shorter and more attackable 9, a lot less woods to deal with, so hopefully see this card really pick up and make some good scores coming down the track.
Sounds good.
So I hope to see you then.